Greetings, everyone. I'm Brigadier General Roger Scearce, U.S. Army retired. I want to talk to you a little bit today about being a comptroller in a hostile environment or a combat situation. My background: retired Army BG, career Finance Corps comptroller, and commanded at every level. Retired in 1999. My combat experience was with the 22nd Support Command in Desert Storm. When it kicked off, I was a part of the initial vanguard that went in with General Pagonis to get the logistical side set up. It was Saudi Arabia, so it wasn't totally an austere environment, but it was a lot different than we were used to, that's for sure. A little bit about my background with ASMC. We're celebrating ASMC's 75th anniversary this year. We've got something going almost every day in terms of recognizing that great event, and many people are involved with making it real and meaningful to all the FMers in DoD. ASMC has been an integral part of my career since I began in 1971, probably before most of you were even born. I'm a life member. I've served on the National Executive Committee when I was the Deputy Director at the Defense Finance and Accounting Service for 2 or 3 years, as I recall, as a board member. ASMC has offered immense professional development and networking opportunities that each of you will find as you progress through your career becomes more and more meaningful and important to have those contacts, and as well as all the great training you get either locally or at the PDIs. In 1990, I was teaching resource management at the War College, along with leadership at the Army War College as a member of the faculty when I was activated to be part of the initial vanguard, going into then Riyadh and then on to Dhahran to set up the 22nd Support Command. As I recall, it was an awfully hot day in August, and I had already been there on a tour as a major. I was the comptroller of the U.S. military training mission there for 2 years, so had some knowledge of the local environment, and in fact, many of my relationships were still there. We got there. The troops were inbound several days later, getting off planes at Dhahran International Airport, and obviously nowhere to go, nothing to eat, nothing to drink, and we were scrambling to get food, water, shelter, and transportation arranged so that the soldiers coming off the 24th Infantry Division, the 18th Airborne Corps soldiers, 82nd Airborne coming in, it was quite the trying time. I found as a comptroller there, my job was to control funds and create initial logistical sustainment. That was what it was all about. We spent probably close to $900 million in the first 3 months. Keep in mind, as the troops were getting off the planes, their logistical trains were still out on the ocean. Some of them had to turn back because the ships broke down, and all of their Division Support Command logistical stuff, trucks, repair parts, all that stuff were turned around. So we, thank goodness we were in Saudi Arabia, but it really doesn't matter, I don't think. Anytime the local vendors know there's cash on the battlefield and it's Americans, they'll show up pandering something, and we made immense use of that. There was some price gouging initially, but when we coordinated with the local regional prince, the royalty in Saudi, I won't go into that, but each region has its own prince, that quickly fixed itself, and the prices came down. For example, we were paying $1,500 a day for a school bus to haul troops around, and we got that price down to about $100 a day once the prince got involved. the criticality of having the acquisition professionals there, along with the finance core folks, bringing cash to the battlefield. We had pallets of cash coming in. We opened up local depository accounts at the banks in Dot Run so that we could write checks to the contractors that we were using, and we were buying food, we were buying boxes of water, in the water bottles and all that. That became the hallmark of the Desert Storm soldier. Had always had 2 bottles of water sticking out of his cargo pockets. Uh, we we arranged for food. We opened up makeshift mess halls. We had to build latrines and showers and all of that stuff from scratch for our troops as they deployed out into the desert in tents and other things that we rented from several folks in the desert. So it was quite the endeavor, if you will. But we all got through it okay, and between the engineers coming over quickly to arrange real estate transactions so that we could lease buildings for our soldiers to finally get into under shelter, all the way to coordinating with the Saudi government for food and all that for our troops. It was good. The logistical trains finally arrived at some point later, a month or so, and all the normal doctrinal stuff that the Army does every day to take care of its troops in combat kind of came to the fore. The comptroller and the finance officer and the acquisition professional became key, again, to providing initial logistical sustainment in Desert Storm. And I believe those lessons were carried forward into later engagements in Iraq and Afghanistan. Some of our challenges was funds control. We had no GFibs or automated system back then. We basically were handling it on a checkbook kind of spreadsheet. The funds came directly from the Army to our office and the 22nd Support Command. The COCOM comptroller ran his show in Riyadh, but that money came down through the Joint Staff for whatever they needed. The Army funds, if you will, came directly from the Army via Forces Command. General Bob Gordon was the desk room. He was an old friend of mine, and certainly that helped sustain the contracts, cash operations, and all of that. The assistance in kind we got from the Saudis, the salatium payments we had to make, the accounting for the funds in general, all proved to be workable and doable with a lot of innovation and other creative ways of taking care of the funds and making sure you didn't get into any violations. The last, I wanted to go over a couple of lessons learned. I've got them jotted down here. I'm going to look down so that I don't miss anything. A couple of things y'all need to think about is FMers, financial managers. You've got to be prepared, just like the infantry soldier, to prepare to deploy at any time. You bring immense capability along with the acquisition professional to sustain our troops upon their arrival, and I think it's critical that you remember that and always have a kind of a go bag prepared, have your shots updated, and all the other stuff that I did not have prepared when I got activated, but quickly put it together, have your wills done and all that. You've heard all that before. I think because of what we did and the lessons we learned in Desert Storm carried forward, like I said earlier, but I think all of that comes back to your training and your professional development over time, no matter where you are in the career chain. I think you'll use every bit of that training and experience in a combat situation, especially as a financial manager. People want to do all kinds of weird stuff. Your job, obviously, is to let them know what's right and what's wrong, what can be done. You don't need to say no all the time, but we certainly need to figure out how to get the commander what he or she needs and move forward. The regulations do work. There's no need to go violating regulations all over the place just because you're in a hostile situation. We invoked the Food and Forage Act towards the end of the mission when the Congress was slow in providing extra funding for Desert Storm. And there are processes around to do that. Doesn't mean you have a blank check. It just means that you have to keep even more detailed records to cover down on those expenditures later. So don't get into the mode of yeah, anything goes in a hostile situation. Just make sure you abide by the regs to the extent that you can, and if you need to violate them for some reason, MilCon or something like that, that you don't have that specific appropriation, be sure you document that. I'm not saying let the warfighter suffer because of our regulations, but you need to document anything that happens that it's not covered by the reg. You'll find out how much you do remember from all your training, and how much you are relied upon to be that calm voice in the midst of chaos during any deployment, and especially as it was in Desert Storm. You become an integral advisor to the commander on resource issues, and that covers the waterfront, as you can imagine. The last point I'd make is the finance and acquisition professionals are a team as you go into an initial deployment, especially with the logistical trains still out on the ocean. You provide that capability to house, feed, water, and transport soldiers here or there in any way, shape, or form. And I say soldiers, I mean all the service members, DOD, active duty, Marines, airmen, soldiers, sailors, etc. And again, in any deployment in our history, there's always been vendors there to take advantage of the U.S. dollar being brought into theater and take care of the troops. So cash operations are the norm for a while, and controlling that cash as well as the accounting for the appropriations become a mainstay and a full-time 24-hour job. Last point I would make: in some deployments you're going to recover cash on the battlefield. We recovered a lot of Saddam Hussein's cash as the war progressed. The comptroller is bound is the one that needs to be reported to, and to make sure that those monies are secured and repatriated back to the states or used for local needs as the regulations provide. So with that, I'll close. Sorry, this doesn't offer an opportunity to take any questions. Probably a little longer than it needed to be, but ASMC has my contact data if any of you want to pop me a note and continue the dialogue. I wish you the best, and each of you, please help us celebrate ASMC's 75th year. It's quite the accomplishment for the society. Thank you.